Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday night AJ Zoom. Thank you for joining us live tonight on Zoom, and to those who are watching us live on Facebook, good evening as well. And a special hello to those who are listening to the recording tomorrow on J Air. Now, it's an exciting week for AJA. I know we will be seeing a lot of you in person this week at our Melanie Phillips events tomorrow in Brisbane and on Sunday in Melbourne. So we are very much looking forward to you. Both were a sellout, and I have a special announcement to our Melbourne viewers that we have a special allocation of tickets that are available to purchase now. We worked hard and we managed to increase the capacity by a little bit, and they are selling quickly. So if you did miss out originally on Melanie Phillips in Melbourne and you would like to attend, you can use that link and purchase your tickets now. Now to this evening, we have an incredible guest for you this evening. From Palestinian Media Watch, we have Itamar Marcus, the founder and director. After October 7, it was a massive impact on all Jewish communities worldwide, including our home country, Australia. A major issue has been the libels against Israel and the IDF, amplified in the propaganda. And this propaganda has driven an explosion in anti-Semitism worldwide, which we are seeing in Australia day by day across cities in Australia. Itamar Marcus is the founder and director of Palestinian Media Watch, which exposes and fights in the critical information war. We are so blessed to have him this evening. Please welcome Itamar Marcus.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the invitation. And it's always great to speak to and to meet with our Australian friends. Today, you were talking just now about a lot about anti-Semitism. And what I want to discuss with you today is the ideology of Palestinian anti-Semitism or Jew hatred. Now, why do I mean the ideology of Jew hatred? Because Jew hatred, anti-Semitism has two components. It has the actions that we all see, the terrible things that have been happening in Australia, the attacks on shuls and people's homes. But there's also the other component, which is the ideology. The actions don't come in a vacuum. They come because of the ideology, and the ideology is what leads to the actions. And what I want to discuss with you today is what is the Palestinian Authority ideology of anti-Semitism? And at the end, we'll see to what extent this is the ideology that might be driving anti-Semitism around the world, including the anti-Semitism that you're experiencing now in Australia. Now, I will be giving you a PowerPoint presentation, which I will share with you right now. Okay. Okay. Now, the presentation that I'm going to show you is based actually on a presentation that you see the title here, Palestinian Authority Anti-Semitism 80 Years After Auschwitz, What Has Changed? Now, this presentation was originally supposed to have been given actually last week in the European Parliament on the anniversary of International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I was going to be speaking there together with Israeli Minister Shikli. Literally the night before, at 8 o'clock at night, I get a phone call that because of security concerns, Minister Shikli can't go and we're canceling the conference. So this presentation that you're going to be seeing is based on that presentation. And I think it's critical because the message of what has changed, and as you'll see, what are the similar ideological foundations of Nazi ideology that led to what it did, and Palestinian ideology, I think is critical for the world to understand it, for you and for you to understand as well. Now, okay, the first fundamental of Palestinian anti-Semitism is that Jews endanger all of humanity. Jews ruin every society in which they live. And I want to show you this with some examples coming from the top of the Palestinian Authority. And these are videos. The first person you're going to hear is Mahmoud Abbas, who's explaining European hatred of Jews and explaining why Hitler fought the Jews. Listen to what the leader of the Palestinian Authority thinks about the Jewish impact around the world.
إن بريطانيا والولايات المتحدة قررتا إقامة وزرع كيان آخر في وطننا التاريخي، وذلك لأهداف استعمارية. والحقيقة أن هذه الدول الغربية كانت تريد أن تتخلص من اليهود وأن تستفيد منهم في فلسطين، تضرب عصفورين بحجر.
The Europeans wanted to get rid of the Jews. Now, why did they want to get rid of the Jews? Here is that first video.
قالوا إن هتلر قتل اليهود لأنهم يهود، أن أوروبا تكره اليهود لأنهم يهود. لا، يحارب هؤلاء الناس بسبب وظيفتهم الاجتماعية. حتى هتلر يعني حارب اليهود لأنهم كانوا يعملون على أساس الربا والمال، يعني يخربون من وجهة نظره هذا، ولذلك هو يكرههم.
Okay, of course, this is an incredible statement that Hitler fought the Jews because he believed they were causing ruin. The Jews caused trouble. The Jews had a problematic social role. The Jews caused ruin in societies because they based on usury and money. The Jews brought anti-Semitism on themselves. The Jewish behavior caused people to hate them. This is the ideology coming from the top of the Palestinian Authority. Now, just going to show you some more examples also coming from the top. Here we have a quote by Mahmoud Abbas's advisor just a few weeks ago. The existence of the occupation is his term for Israel. The existence of Israel is the cause of all the crises and disasters in the region and even possibly the whole world. Jews are responsible for crises around the world. And here's another Palestinian official. The Israeli occupation state, Israel, was established on the basis of hatred of the Palestinians. The Israelis indoctrinate their children to kill Palestinians and hate Palestinians. Jews are a danger to the world, but they're a special danger to us Palestinians because they indoctrinate. They teach their people that they have to kill Palestinians. Now, sometimes they go beyond this, and this is very critical. If the Jews had bad behavior, but it was something that they learned, they could change. But here what they're saying in these next two quotes, also recent quotes from official PA sources, it's inherent to Judaism. It's inherent to the Jewish people. And here we have an official on Palestinian official TV. The Israeli culture of murder and destruction is based on two foundations. First, on the European culture. The second is based on the Torah. It's based on the Torah. Jews are killing because this is what we're learned. This is our religion. We can't change because this is the way we believe. This is his message. And of course, he's talking to a very religious Palestinian society. If something appears in the Quran, Palestinians are all going to fulfill it. And here he's saying that the Torah is telling that you have to kill and destroy. This is what Israel is based on. And then here's another one. They claim rabbis issued religious rulings that if you want to enter paradise, you need to kill children and women. This will bring you closer to paradise. And of course, he's talking about Palestinian women and children. Again, a ridiculous, false libel. But when Palestinians hear this, they hear, oh, the Torah says so, the religious leaders say so. We are in danger. We are threatened. We are endangered by the Israelis, and therefore hatred is justified. Fighting Israelis is justified. Hatred and fighting is justified. These are the messages that Palestinians get from this. Now, I want to show you a fascinating statement that appeared by a political commentator on Palestinian official TV. This was just 3 weeks after, less than 3 weeks after the October 7th atrocities. And there was a lot of sympathy for Israel around the world. Visitors were coming, leaders were coming from around the world to express sympathy with Israel because of the horrific pogrom of October 7th. And listen to the way the Palestinian Authority explained why people were showing sympathy for Israel.
وإنما هم يعني كأوروبا وأمريكا استطاعوا التخلص من اليهود الذين هم أنفسهم يعتبرونهم نفايات بشرية وألقوا بهم في فلسطين. يعني أوجدوا لهم مكان بعيدا عنهم، بعيدا عن أوروبا. لا يريدون الآن هجرة معاكسة وعودة هؤلاء إلى أوروبا مرة أخرى. قالها بايدن إذا تذكر خلال الأحداث في إسرائيل. لو لم تكن إسرائيل موجودة لأوجدها لكي تستوعب هؤلاء النفايات البشرية.
Okay. An incredible statement, official statement, but this is the ideology. The Jews for the world are human waste. The Jews threaten the entire world. And look at the language. The Europeans succeeded in creating a place for them in Palestine. They threw them out into Palestine, and now they're expressing sympathy because they don't want the Jews to return to Europe. It's an incredible statement. They're telling their people, we are suffering with the Jews. Nobody wants the Jews. It's not just we Palestinians who hate the Jews. The whole world hates the Jews. That's the message the Palestinians are giving to their people. Now, I'm going to just show in little comparisons here to show how all of this appears in Nazi ideology. Here's a quote from Mein Kampf of Hitler. The Jews are the eternal arch enemy of the human race, manipulate, corrupt, and destroy societies. Identical message being presented by the Palestinian leadership to their people. The Jews endanger society. They created Israel in order to solve their Jewish problem. In fact, there was an article in the official newspaper a number of years ago that said Hitler didn't have colonies, so he killed them. Balfour had colonies, so he decided to send the Jews to Palestine. But Hitler is Balfour without colonies, and Balfour is Hitler with colonies. They both wanted to get rid of the Jews. Similar ideology. So that is Palestinian Authority ideology. Now, the second message, which even goes a little further, not only do we endanger society, but this is something intentional. We have a goal. We want to dominate humanity. We want to subjugate humanity, as it says in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which the Palestinian Authority presents as an authentic document. Listen to this researcher on Palestinian TV describing why the Europeans wanted to get rid of the Jews, and listen to what he says.
اليهود في طبعهم أنهم متعالين. أوروبيون كرهوهم وأرادوا التخلص منهم، فكانت إحدى مصالح الدول الأوروبية فكرة إقامة دولة لليهود، وفكرهم قائم على عنصرية جعلتهم مكروهين في أي مكان. في بروتوكولات حكماء صهيون قالوا أن الله خلق الأرض ثم خلق البشر ليمهدوا لهم الأرض ثم خلقهم ليكونوا أسيادا عليهم.
Okay. God created the rest of the world and all the non-Jews so they could prepare the world for the Jews so that the Jews could be masters over them. He quotes the Protocols of Elders of Zion, which is, of course, forgery, claiming to be the Jewish plan to take over the world, and he presents it as a factual book. He presents it as an authentic Jewish blueprint for subjugating humanity. And this is all coming from official Palestinian Authority sources. I'm not showing you Hamas today. I'm showing you official Palestinian Authority sources. So the Jews want to subjugate humanity. This is an op-ed that appeared, an article in the official Palestinian newspaper just a little over a month ago. And listen to some of the quotes in this vicious article here. The behavior is filled with barbarism and thirst for blood. The Jews seek money, power, and arrogance. But here's the key. From all the corners of the globe, I see and understand why the harm they have caused. He sees how we have damaged the entire humanity. They want to subjugate the entire world. This is what Jews are. It's not just Israel. The Jews want to subjugate the entire world. This is coming from the official Palestinian Authority newspaper just 1 month ago. And of course, this is Hitler's ideology. This was driving Hitler. The Jewish people, by virtue of their innate characteristics, were driven to world domination. Identical words that we're hearing from the Palestinian Authority today. Now, the Palestinian Authority takes this, I would call, political anti-Semitism, and they actually make it so much worse. They compound it by giving it Allah's stamp of approval, which is their religious anti-Semitism. It's not just we who see this visually, but Allah warned us about this in Islam. And I want to show you two short statements here in one video by the most important religious figure in the Palestinian Authority. This is Mahmoud Abbas, advisor on Islam. He was also appointed by Abbas to be head of the Sharia courts, the Islamic courts. He is Mr. Islam for Palestinian Authority. And look how he describes Jews on official Palestinian Authority TV.
كثير من أهل الكتاب خرجوا عن هذه الإنسانية واتبعوا الأبلسة، اتبعوا الشيطنة. لا يشترط في الشيطان أن يكون جنيا خفيا، يمكن أن يكون على صورتك، ولكنه شيطان. طعان سائمة من أشباه البشر، من أناس أو مخلوقات خلقها الله على هيئة البشر، من لعنه الله وغضب عليه وجعل منهم القردة والخنازير.
Okay, the different things that Jews are being described here is quite shocking. What is he saying here? Jews are humanoids, people in the shape or creatures in the shape of humans that Allah created, but they're not really humans. We're really apes and pigs. We are cursed by Allah. We are humanoids. And then he says also, we are Satan. Satan doesn't have to be in the form of a demon, but he can be in the form of man. The Jews are Satan. I mean, this is incredible. We're not even human beings. We're animals. We're animals. We're Satan. Satan in Islam is the force that brings all the evil in the world. So you take this message from the top religious figure that Jews are Satan doing evil in the world. You take the political anti-Semitism that the entire world suffers from the Jews, and what you have is really the perfect storm of Jew hatred, because you have the ideology together with God's stamp of approval, and boom, therefore everybody has to believe this. It's not just Mahmoud Abbas who's saying this. It's also Allah himself who is giving this message. And of course, Hitler likewise talked about the Jew as Satan or devil. The personification of the devil as the symbol of all evil assumes the living shape of the Jew. Almost the identical words that we heard from the Palestinian Authority top religious figure. This is what, excuse me, this is what Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf. Now, one of the important messages of anti-Semites is they want everybody to believe that everyone agrees with them. Everybody agrees that the Jews are this terrible problem. And look, we have, again, similar wording from Hitler and from the Palestinian Authority. Hitler, in a letter to Gemlech, he wrote as follows: the danger represented by the Jews finds expression in the undeniable dislike of them felt by a large section of our people. Everybody hates the Jews. And just listen to this. After the terrible pogrom that happened in the Netherlands, where the Israelis and the Jews were attacked by a local population in the Netherlands just a couple of months ago, what did they say on Palestinian TV? What happened in the Netherlands 2 or 3 days ago is the best proof that the world is sick of the Jews. And the host says, right, same message, not just us, everybody agrees, everybody hates the Jews. Now, the Palestinian Authority wants to see this problem that humanity has solved. And what is their suggested solution? Since the Jews have it inherent in them, and the Jews have it in their genes, they've said it at various times, and it's part of their religion, Palestinian Authority has been literally preaching extermination for very many years. And I want to just show you how frequently we hear this from official Palestinian TV, from official sources. I'm not going to play them. I'll just show you the quotes. This was July of last year. Religious figure on TV: kill them one by one, do not leave even one. A month later, August: count them and kill them one by one, do not leave even one. Again, all of this official, the PA Supreme Sharia Court Director on TV, Allah: kill them one by one, count them one by one, don't leave even one. That was October. January, just a month ago, Allah: strike the Jews, kill them one by one, do not leave even one. And then a second time, January 24th, just now, Allah: count them one by one, kill them, do not leave even one. Look how often the Palestinian Authority is calling for extermination, genocide of the Jews. When people hear this over and over and over again, they realize, they get the message that Islam wants you to kill Jews. And they always justify it because here, for example, in this last one, your faith is threatened. Again, you have to defend yourself. Your faith is threatened. It is occupied and defiled by Israel. These are the messages. It's always presented as self-defense. The Jews are doing these terrible things. Therefore, it is our right, and Allah promised it. The Jews have to be exterminated. If I would use the expression, the Palestinians talk about the extermination of Jews as part of the tikkun olam, as part of fixing the world, because the world can't be fixed with the Jews. Now, The clearest expression of this tikkun olam idea in Islam that the Palestinians quote a lot is something that we've heard many times from Palestinian religious figures. And the most shocking time was when we saw it on October 18th, 2023. That's 11 days after October 7th. Now, what did we see? Here on the screen, what you see over here is the official talking points of the Palestinian Authority Ministry of Religion that they distribute online for all the mosques in the Palestinian Authority. These are the topics that you have to talk about. There's no freedom of religion, freedom of anything in the Palestinian Authority. Even the sermons in all the mosques, they all have to preach the same thing. So here's the Ministry of Religion. They have this list of talking points. One of the talking points was the following. It was a quote from a hadith that's an Islamic tradition attributed to Muhammad. It's part of Islamic law. Goes as follows: the hour of resurrection won't come until Muslims fight the Jews and kill them. Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and the tree will say, Muslim servant of Allah, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. Now, the incredible thing about them choosing this source just 11 days after October 7th is everybody knew, everybody saw the videos of the Jews hiding behind rocks, hiding behind trees. Here's one of the pictures from October 7th. Every Palestinian saw them. They were all celebrating it. Jews were hiding behind rocks and trees, and that's where they were killed. Hundreds of people were killed at literally doing just that, hiding behind rocks and trees. So what's the Palestinian Authority Ministry of Religion telling their people? What they're telling them is what happened just 11 days ago wasn't just Hamas. This was fulfillment of Islam. Literally, this was fulfillment of Islam because Jews were hiding and they were killed. Now, this whole expression is very, very dangerous, of course. The hour of resurrection won't come until Muslims fight the Jews and kill them. That's what I said about tikkun olam. The hour of resurrection, the whole world's going to be fixed. There's going to be tikkun olam. How is that going to happen? That's going to happen when the Jews are exterminated. And the final Jews are going to hide, and then the Muslims are going to come and they're going to kill them. Presenting Muslims' destiny as exterminating Jews, and they're making it very real by putting it right after October 7th. And like I said, we've heard this preached many, many times on official Palestinian TV. Now, I don't have to tell you that, of course, this was Hitler to the essence. The only solution for the Jews is removal from our midst. It'll be the annihilation of the Jewish race in Europe. But I want to also point out this first quote here from Mein Kampf. I'm acting according to the will of the Almighty Creator. When I defend myself against a Jew, I'm fighting for the work of the Lord. Hitler likewise packaged his genocide, packaged his extermination of Jews as something that God wants, as something that is a service to humanity. He's defending himself, but this is what God wants. I'm doing it. I'm fighting for the Lord. And the Lord's work is destroying the Jews, and therefore I'm doing it. Again, identical message is being presented by the Palestinian Authority to their people, the identical message. And that's why this is such a dangerous message. Now, what's the result of this ideology? The result of the ideology, of course, is October 7th. And not just October 7th, but all the terror we've been having for all the years is a result of this ideology. Jews are so evil. Jews are dangerous. Jews have to be killed. We have to do it as Palestinians. We have to do it as Muslims. We have to kill them. And because of this, whoever kills a Jew, Palestinian Authority, they glorify them, they honor them, and they reward them. I could give you hundreds of examples of how terrorists are glorified, honored, and rewarded. I'm just going to give you one of each one, just to give you a sense of how evil this is. Here you have the picture of 3 Israeli women, British Israelis, Lucy, Maya, and Rena D. I'm sure you all remember April of 2023. They were all murdered together. They were driving in their car. They were murdered in a drive-by shooting. About a month later, Israel tracked down the terrorists and killed them. And they killed them together with the accomplice who was hiding them. I want to show you, this is the picture that was posted by the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority the same day that the terrorists were killed. He posted the picture of the 2 terrorists and the accomplice, and look what he wrote under it. Glory and eternity to our righteous martyrs. Glory and eternity. The murderer of these 3 women, the murderers, deserve glory and eternity. And this is the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority. Now, also, I want to point out something very important. Glory and eternity. These could be Palestinian nationalistic messages. Righteous martyrs is an Islamic message, because martyrs is the Islamic term shaheed. Shaheed means you did an act that Allah is going to reward you for. He's a witness that you did an act for him. You died for Allah. So the murder of these people was both a fantastic nationalistic Palestinian, and for that they'll get action. For that they'll get glory and eternity. But they're also righteous martyrs. They've done this for Islam. In addition, the deputy chair, Mahmoud Abbas's deputy, went to visit the families of the terrorists. And, quote, Fatah posted, "These visits express Fatah's path of honoring its martyrs." You couldn't have had more horrific murder. Of course, they had endless horrific murders. A mother and her two daughters murdered together, and Palestinian Authority is presenting this as something outrageously good, something fantastic. Now, I talked about honoring, glorifying. What you have here is the picture of 12 children who were all killed in a terror attack led by Dalal Mughrabi. Dalal Mughrabi hijacked a bus together with other terrorists. 12 children were killed. 25 adults were also killed. Palestinian Authority has named 5 schools after Dalal Mughrabi, the terrorists. After the child killer, they've named 5 schools for children. There also are 31 additional schools named after different terrorist murders. There's, by the way, also a school named for Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was an ally of Hitler, who lived in Berlin 2 years during the war, created an entire Nazi brigade that did a lot of murders and genocide, and they have schools. So even something like this, 31 schools named after terrorist murderers. And I say reward every Palestinian who goes to jail immediately gets a very high salary from the Palestinian Authority. It can reach as high as 12,000 shekel if they're in jail long enough, meaning if they're murderers, they go to jail for more than 30 years. They get 12,000 shekel a month, which is about over $3,000, which means it's more than 300 times the Palestinian Authority monthly salary, the average monthly salary. That's how incredible this reward is that the Palestinian Authority gives to every single terrorist. Palestinian Media Watch, we released some figures on the terrorists who are being released right now, from the Palestinian terrorists who are being released in the exchange deal with the hostages. And what we found is that there are 316 new millionaires. 316 new Palestinian millionaires amongst these people who've earned over 1 million shekels while they've been in prison. Altogether, 500 million shekels. 500 million shekels has been given out over the years by the Palestinian Authority just to these terrorists who are leaving jail right now. 500 million shekel. Incredible message of support for terror by rewarding the terrorists. Now, final thing I want to talk about is the success of the hate indoctrination. We saw the hate ideology. We saw what they're telling to do about it. You have to kill them. And now we see the success of this indoctrination. And the first thing about the success is the Palestinian Authority response to October 7th. Everybody in the world makes the mistake of just blaming Hamas for what happened on October 7th. But I argue is that it was the Palestinian Authority with this hate ideology since the Oslo Accords were signed. They're the ones who've created Hamas. A child grows up learning this, teenagers hear these messages, and they say, wait a second, Palestinian Authority isn't organizing terror nicely. I'm going to join Hamas. They go through the PA education and they go straight into the hands of Hamas ideologically, because ideologically there is no difference, but Hamas is doing something, is doing more than the Palestinian Authority, more than Fatah. There are more terror from Hamas. So they literally have created the power of Hamas with this ideology. Now, the result of this is the Palestinian Authority has also celebrated October 7th. And I'll just give you a few examples from the top of the PA. This is Jibril Rajoub. He is the Fatah Central Committee Secretary. A lot of people think he is going to be the next leader after Mahmoud Abbas. And listen to the way he described October 7th. What happened on October 7th was an earthquake. It was a war of defense. Okay, we were defending, full of epics and acts of heroism. Epics and heroism. murdering people in their rooms while they're lying down, hiding behind trees, undefended people. This is heroism, according to one of the top people in the Palestinian Authority. Fatah published this on their Telegram channel right after October 7th. And this was their message. This is what they believed was happening. This is the Israeli. He's a rat. And this is the Palestinian military boot crushing the rat. That's how happy they were about what was going on. And there has been nonstop celebration of this since it happened. In recent months, there's also condemnation of Hamas because of the destruction. But primarily, October 7th has never, ever been condemned. It has only been celebrated. Now, I just want to touch on one final thing before I go into some polls that I'm going to show you. I've been talking about the hatred of the Jews and the denial of the Jews' right to life, literally, the denial of Jews' right to life. But what about the land? The Palestinian Authority, of course, tells the international community that the fight's only about land. They claim they just want what they call West Bank, Judea, Samaria, Gaza, and then there'll be peace. Just want to show you their messages to their own people. This is from a Fatah children's magazine, From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free. We have seen thousands of maps like this of Palestine nowhere through the entire education, informal education. They make it in schools, they make it in kindergarten, they make it everywhere. They paint it on their faces. This is Palestine, from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. That's the message. Now, I wanted you to know or to understand how Palestinians see Palestinian history and the history of the land of Israel, because this fits in. This is their narrative as a national narrative. We just heard their anti-Semitism narrative. Now I want to show you their political narrative about the land, and this is their political narrative. This again from Children's Education, Wide Magazine for Children. The Canaanite Arabs settled the land of Palestine. Okay, so all of a sudden the Canaanites are turned into Palestinians. This is what we hear. And then Palestine underwent dozens of invasions. The Babylonians, the Persians, the Sumerians, the Assyrians, the Hittites, the Pharaohs, and the Hebrews. The Hebrews were one of the many invaders. They go on and on here describing how in great glory, how they literally defeated all of the invaders and expelled them. That's what they claim. But then they get to this. 100 years ago, the British invaded. Their invasion was the most dangerous because they deliberately arrived to give the land, our land, to the Jews. In the end, Palestine fell under Zionist occupation, which continues today. Now, important, Palestinians tell the world we're only against the occupation. And the world lies to themselves and tells themselves, well, what the Palestinians mean is they want the West Bank. No. Palestine fell under Zionist occupation directly from the British in 1948. All of Israel's an occupation. This is a fundamental of Palestinian ideology. All of Israel. Israel has no right to exist. You've just heard Israel was created by the Europeans to get rid of the Jews. Israel is a colonial implant. Israel has no right to exist. All of Israel is a Zionist occupation. Now, what's the end game, according to the Palestinians? They've just taught their children about the Babylonians, Persians, and everybody was expelled. This occupation, Israel, will cease to exist just as before it ceased to exist. And all of the invaders were defeated and Palestine returned to be free and Arab. This is the end line. In this magazine and in Palestinian education and in their official statements, but children are brought up with this. We've seen this dozens and dozens of times throughout Palestinian education. The end game is the end of Israel, because that will be historical justice. Palestine will return as if there was a Palestinian state. Of course, there never was, but it will return to this thousands of years of Palestinianism, which they're claiming. Not just will Israel be destroyed, but every single Jew will be expelled. And this is in that same children's education. They talk about Algerian colonialism and how the French all fled Algeria and left to the Arabs and the Algerians. And then they teach as follows. Algeria's experience assures that the Jewish settlers in Palestine will disappear in the end. And I put the Arabic here to see they actually wrote this in red, so it'll be clear to all the children Algeria's experience assures Jewish settlers in Palestinian will disappear. There's not going to be a Jew left in Israel. That's the Palestinian message to their people. This is what the Palestinian children grew up. And of course, this is the Ministry of Education's map. And here it says the entire land is ours from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River. And here is a Palestinian institution. All the land is Palestine. The Palestinian official land authority map. Everything belongs to Palestine. Now, I just want to touch for 1 second on saying how they supported October 7th. They not only support October 7th, but look how they're responding to the release of the terrorists. These are terrorist murderers. I'll just give you a few examples. This is the governor of Tulkarem, and he's talking about the terrorists that are coming to his city. Undoubtedly, we will accord them a hero's welcome, and they deserve to be greeted this way. And here's another Palestinian official, Tawfiq Tarawi, senior official. This freedom of the giants of loyalty, sacrifice, and resolve is worthy of joy. Terrorist murderers, some of them have 35 and more life sentences for murdering more than so many people, and they're called giants of resolve and sacrifice, and they're worthy of joy. Final example, and this is the most shocking, we couldn't believe this. Who you see over here is a person named Kadura Fares. He is the Palestinian Authority minister in charge of prisoners. He didn't just greet the prisoners that came to Ramallah, he flew to Cairo. And here he is in Cairo. In Cairo, Israel expelled the very, very worst terrorists who killed the largest numbers of people. We said we won't allow them back in Judea and Samaria. We won't even allow them back in Gaza. So what did he do? He flew to greet them in Cairo to show that the Ministry of Prisoner Affairs honors them as well, even the worst terrorists. You see him here smiling together with some of these terrorists who were serving dozens and dozens of life sentences in prison. Now, the very, very final thing is Palestinian public opinion polls. I'm showing you how they celebrate. I want to show you how it reaches the people, and these polls are shocking. So the first polls I'm going to show you were polls that were taken right after October 7th. Or a month after, when everybody knew about the atrocities, everybody knew about the rapes and the burning people alive and the terrible, terrible number of people murdered. How did Palestinians respond? So on November 14th, that's when this was released, 83% of West Bank Palestinians supported October 7th, 64% of Gazans support October 7th, total 75%. This gap here of 20%, it's because the war had already started. Israel already started its war in Gaza. There have already been many deaths. So only 64% supported it, but in the West Bank, 83% supported. Now, this next question is the most shocking. Considering the ongoing events, meaning the war and what's going on, do you feel a sense of pride as a Palestinian? 98% of Palestinians felt proud about October 7th. 98, and this is just an unbelievable number. Even we know the Palestinians inside out at Palestinian Media Watch, and this number even surprised us. 98% feel proud about the massacre of the Jews. And you want to know how that can happen? And I'll tell you why. I said before, Palestinians are a very religious population. They have been so brainwashed, indoctrinated, that Allah wants this to happen. You're doing this for Allah. There's a service for Allah. The Jews are the danger to all humanity. The Jews are destroying humanity. Hitler killed the Jews because they were so terrible. Everybody has to fight the Jews. And therefore they felt proud. They felt proud because they were doing a service for humanity, doing a service for Allah by getting rid of these Jews. 98% of Palestinians felt a sense of pride. And by the way, it was just what's also incredible. They divided it. Do you feel pride to a great extent or some extent? 94% said a great extent, and another 4% or so said to some extent. So it was universal, an incredible pride in what happened. Now, since then, here we have polls over. I'm only going to show you the West Bank and Gaza. Everybody knows, everybody assumes that Gaza is supporting Hamas, but I want to show you. In your view, was Hamas' decision to launch his offensive on October 7th correct or incorrect? Here you have the blue is the correct. So in December, in the West Bank, 82% said it was correct. By March 2024, when there had already been a lot of destruction, only 71%. But even in spite of all the destruction, it was still 71%, and it stayed in the 70s up until today. 70% of West Bankers think it was a smart decision in spite of all the death and destruction. Many of them think it was the right thing to do, but it caused too much destruction here. Now, also, because of this, which of the following political parties do you support? And I want to show you this is also so significant. Look at the West Bank. September 2023. This is before October 7th. Before Hamas proved that they could murder Jews, only 12% of Palestinians supported Hamas. That was a third, less than half, sorry, a little bit less than half of who supported Fatah. December 2023, after Hamas proved it could murder Jews so well, they went from 12% to 44%. And Fatah, which didn't take the lead, only went down to 16%. And it continues until today, about 40% supporting Hamas. A lot of people don't, the next biggest number is not supporting anyone. Fatah is only 17. So Palestinians have showed if you kill enough Israelis, you become popular. The problem is not just Hamas. The problem is the Palestinian population who have been believing the message they're getting. Now, there was a poll done by ADL. It was just released January 2025. And I want to show you Palestinians come out as the most anti-Semitic people in the world, but I want to show you how their beliefs are exactly the result of what they were taught. I showed you in the beginning, everybody in the world hates the Jews. Look at this question that ADL asked. And by the way, ADL did this poll on the entire world, literally. People hate the Jews because of the way Jews behave. 94% of Palestinians believe this. Jews don't care what happens to anyone but their own kind. 93% of Palestinians believe this. Jews think they are better than other people. 91% of Palestinians believe this. What are your impressions of Israel? 1% favorable. Now, this is incredible. 1% of Palestinians have favorable impression of Israel. People are telling us, oh, just give them West Bank, give them Judea and Samaria, let them have a state there. Well, if you've got 1% favorable of Israel, and look what happened from Gaza, which is a simple border, a very straight, simple border to protect, and look what happened there. You know what's going to happen if we have a Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria with a border that's about almost 10 times as long because it goes in and out and all around. And we would have to have an army 5 times our size just to protect the border to prevent something happening there. And you've got only 1% favorable. And what percentage of Palestinians support Hamas or are favorable about Hamas? 73%. So Palestinians think that the massacres, the rapes was good. 73% are favorable about Hamas. I just want to show you as comparison. I ended up here, I added some of these ADL polls about Australia with the same questions. I want you to see what's going on in Australia just on these. Again, this is a very current poll, just last month. Okay, people hate the Jews because of the way Jews behave. In Australia, you see over here, 35% of Australians. Now, this is a far cry from the Palestinian 94%, but I think it's still a very scary figure to think that 1 in 3 people think that Jews deserve to be hated in Australia. I mean, that's shocking. And when you think about the anti-Semitism you're happening now, remember, this is the ideology. I'm separating. There's the ideology and there are the actions. When you've got this large percentage of people believing that Jews deserve to be hated, then, of course, you are going to have a certain smaller percentage, of course, doing anti-Semitic actions. Also, Australia, Jews don't care what happens to anyone but their own kind. About the same, again, about a third, 34% of Australians. Also, what are your impressions of Israel? Only 40% of Palestinians, of Australians have a positive impression of Israel. Israel has done so much for the world in technology, in healthcare, in helping other countries around the world, and yet only 40%. And I think this is a tremendous drop from what it was just a number of years ago. And you know that better than me, but this is an incredibly shocking. Only 40% are favorable about Israel. Now this was, what are your impressions of Hamas in Australia? 19% had favorable of Hamas. So at least there are twice as many who are more favorable about Israel than there are of Hamas. But again, 20% who believe that it was justified to go and fight and kill and murder Israelis, rape their women, is a very, very high number. And again, it seems like a small number compared to the Palestinian Authority, where it's over 70%. But of course, for a country like Australia, it's very good. And so some of the conclusions, there are many, many conclusions from this, but just I'll get through and then we'll open up to questions. The Palestinian Authority, because through its Nazi-like depictions of Jews, has succeeded in creating the most anti-Semitic population in the world that literally believes that murdering Jews, killing Jews, is the right thing to do. They justify it. They believe it's good. They think it's ethical and moral because they're doing this for humanity. And that exactly is the problem. That's why we have terror the way we do, because it's not just the extreme people in Palestinian society who are doing terror. It's the moderates, and it's even the good people, because they feel they're doing the service. This is what Allah wants of them. They're going to go out and kill Jews. Now, components of this PA ideology of anti-Semitism are spreading, and they're literally infecting millions of people around the world. And this creates a large pool of people around the world who will consider to do anti-Semitic actions like we're seeing today in Australia and literally all across the world, in places where just a number of years ago, Jews felt so comfortable. They couldn't imagine anti-Semitism. All of a sudden, we're seeing this kind of hate ideology, and we're seeing the Palestinian actions, these terrible Palestinian actions. Okay, that is the bad news. And let me close this presentation now and open up for questions.
Thank you very much. We will now go to our president, Dr. David Adler, for a quick announcement. Sorry, wait. Just one moment, everybody.
David, you're muted. No.
Okay. Let me get the correct document. That would help. Okay. Just very briefly, as we do each week, be a supporter, not a leaner. Go to the website where you can join as a member if you have not yet done so. You can make a donation. Make sure you're following us on our social media, such as Facebook or X, where we're now measuring our monthly reach in the millions. It's just extraordinary. And next week, we have another superb commentator when we'll be looking at solutions to some of Israel's challenges with the CEO of Herut, which is the Centre for Israeli Liberty. Itamar, thank you for that very information-rich presentation. We will, while you were talking, we had a number of people asking whether the slides would be accessible, etc. So I'll just emphasise that we do record this. We will upload onto our YouTube channel, and we send out a link to the videos in our subsequent emails. So anybody who wants to go over it and have a look at the content will have an opportunity to do so.
Thank you, David. We've just got a little bit of time for a couple of questions, so I do apologize if we don't get around to everybody. Might start with Anthony Greenberg, please, unmute.
Hi, it's me. I was feeling very buoyed after President Trump and Netanyahu's conference, and now I'm feeling very depressed. So just as a light at the end of the tunnel, I'd be very interested to know what you do think of President Trump's proposal, what the chances are of this actually being pulled off, and if that were the case, what would the impact be on the Palestinians? Because in President Trump's first 4 years, the Palestinians were actually completely sidelined. So I'd be interested to have your thoughts, if that's possible, briefly.
Okay, so you say President Trump's proposal. I'm assuming you're referring to his Gaza proposal. Yeah. Is that what you're referring? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the number one most important part of Palestinian ideology is that everyone who has ever left their home and the descendants since 1948 remains a Palestinian refugee, no matter where they're living, for no matter how many years, they are Palestinian refugees. They talk about 6 million in the refugee camps and another couple of million refugees, so-called, that have settled in Western countries. So it's like he's going against the most important principle of Palestinian ideology, that people don't leave their homes. They always stay no matter what. So that's the interesting question. He somehow expects them to be able to just pick up and leave because he says so. On the other hand, he's going against the most fundamental principle in Palestinian ideology. Now, what he has on his side is the terrible destruction. Like he said, it's impossible to rebuild Gaza with all these people there. It has to be rebuilt, so we're going to have to get them out. The question is, does he mean have them resettle in different countries, or does he mean build a giant refugee camp in the Sinai desert, and after it's rebuilt, bring them back? I think the Palestinians theoretically could be convinced to build something for them in the Gaza, in Sinai, temporary shelters for 1.5 million people. That's something that could theoretically, but I find it hard to believe that they will accept, the Palestinian Authority will not accept it. Now, given that there's been so much suffering in the Gaza Strip, on an individual level, the Palestinians individually might actually be thrilled about this. A lot of them wanted to leave Gaza even before the war started. I'm sure the number is much higher today. If the United States doesn't try to do this through agreement with the countries, but decides to just offer through some means to let people go and be resettled in other places, I think you're going to have a vast percentage of the Palestinian population in Gaza willing to leave. So it depends. If they're smart and they do it the right way, they might actually be able to get them out.
Thank you. Alan Friedman, please.
Yeah, thanks, Daniil, and thanks, Itamar. The information you provided is just overwhelming, and given the outright hostility coming from the PA, the world still looks away and refuses to promote the whole two-state solution concept, expecting Israel to live next door to these people. So where does Israel and us in the diaspora go with this? And do you think we are making any progress in trying to correct the narrative?
Well, so first of all, within Israel, there's definitely been a major shift since October 7th. The polls show that an overwhelming majority, I think it's close to 75% of Israelis now, completely reject a Palestinian state. The Knesset already voted to reject the idea of a Palestinian state. Everybody understands that a Palestinian state will, if they have an election, is going to be a Hamas state within one election, because Hamas is so much more popular than Fatah, which means we will have tunnels, leading to Kfar Saba, leading to Ra'anana, leading to in the north. We will have tunnels everywhere. They'll spend a few years. What we've learned from the Palestinians, and this is really a challenge for us, we've learned is that they have patience. Had someone come to Palestinians 10 years ago and say, listen, let's start building tunnels now, so that we'll have a tunnel system which is bigger than the London Underground, and we will use that tunnel system to eventually fight and kill thousands of Israelis. You have a lot of planning in advance, and that's the danger here. That if they were ever to have a Palestinian state, and the moment they settled in, they would start tunnels, they would start building their own arms industry, and when they felt that they had enough, then we'd have it. So I think Israelis understand this. Now, the question is, what about the rest of the world? The rest of the world doesn't understand this yet. And one of the things that we're trying to do at Palestinian Media Watch is, and why do I focus on this message of anti-Semitism? Because when I go to European parliaments, when I go to the United States, so many people think that the conflict has to do with territory, and that if Israel just gave away the West Bank, just gave away Gaza, just gave away half of Jerusalem, there'd be peace. And what I try to impress on them is that it has nothing to do with territory. A very little bit have to do with territory. And that even the part about territory, they want everything. And once people get this message, they understand. And we've been tremendously successful in changing opinions of decision makers around the world. And I see that as our challenge now over the next year, as there's going to be a lot of pressure on Israel to compromise, to make the world understand and to give Israeli leaders all of this information so they can go out now and fight for Israel with proper ammunition.
Thank you, Itamar. Leon, would you like to unmute?
Leon, you're still muted. Can you unmute?
Right. Oh, good evening. Look, Itamar, how relevant to Israel's situation and the this mindset among the Arabs, how relevant is the model that was established by the victorious Allies after the end of World War II, the successful denazification of Germany and the successful, what I call defascistization of Japan?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. And I'll just tell you, ideally, that's what has to happen. And I want to tell you two reasons why it's going to be much, much more challenging. The first is one, Hitler came to power, or the Nazi Party came to power in 1933. They were out of power in 1948. They had altogether 12 years to brainwash the population. And therefore, as soon as the Western powers started the program and were responsible for education, for culture, for literally everything, it wasn't that deeply embedded. So that's the first thing. With the Palestinian Authority, we're talking about since 1993. Palestinian Authority came to power in 1993. We've seen these messages. Palestinian Media Watch was founded in 1996, and since then we've been seeing these messages. Since then, so we're talking about many, many. We're talking about more than an entire generation that has been brought up on this ideology. So that's the first reason why it's going to be much harder to get out. And the second reason is that even though Hitler claimed to be doing God's work, as I showed you, the overwhelming majority of people who were members of the Nazi Party were not doing it for for religious reasons. They didn't believe this was what Jesus wanted them to do, and they were fulfilling some Christian creed. They felt that they were going along because they were going along. And anti-Semitism was successful, and they believed that the Jews were causing the problems, etc. But it wasn't religious-based. Palestinian, and therefore they could leave it in a moment. The Palestinian anti-Semitism and hatred has Allah's stamp of approval. And therefore, you can defeat them, you can try to detoxify them, you can try to denazify them, but if they have in the back of their mind all along, and if their religious leaders keep telling, but this is what Allah says, the Americans can run Gaza and they can tell you what they believe, but we're telling you what Allah believes. And that's why it's going to be a much greater challenge. It's been a longer period of time. It's been embedded in their consciousness. They believe it's a religious thing. They believe Islam demands it. That's not going to be easy to change.
Thank you, Itamar. We're just about out of time for this evening. So the final question to you is, how do we support the fantastic work that Palestinian Media Watch is doing? How do we follow updates, and what more can we do to help what you guys are doing?
Okay, thank you. So the first thing is you go to our website, it's palwatch.org, and you can sign up to receive our regular bulletins that we send out with all of this material. This material then you can pass on to your political leaders. You can pass it on to journalists who are writing, and you see they're writing incorrectly. You say, here's some information I think you need, and you become an active partner. And we have people in many, many different countries who are using PMW material. The second thing is follow us on Twitter. We're actually more active on Twitter than our bulletins, and we just had we just last week published the amounts of how much money every single one of the 730 or so terrorists who were released, how much money each one left with, and that's at I think close to 1 million views already on Twitter in a chart. So follow us on Twitter, PalWatch. Follow us and finally, if any of you can help us support us financially, we are a nonprofit, and we depend on support from people like you. Finally, I would just add what I started with in the beginning. I've been many times to speaking to members of your parliament. I know it's very challenging today. The government is very challenging today. If your organization is interested, I'd be happy to actually come back, and if you were arranging meetings with parliamentarians, etc., I'll be happy to come and meet with groups, give lectures to them, and try to impact directly by letting them all see this information.
That's a really
Itamar
interesting idea. And we have a federal election coming up within weeks, certainly no later than the end of May. So perhaps it's something we can consider after that.
Great. Okay,
Itamar
thank you.
Marcus, it was a pleasure to have you on this evening. To everybody, this has been recorded, and we urge you to share this message with your family, your friends. It will be available on our YouTube channel. As David mentioned, a lot of you were interested in the slides, a lot which you can go to the Palestinian Media Watch website, watch the recording on our YouTube, and make sure that this important work and this important message is shared with as many people as possible. Everybody, it was a pleasure. Please say thank you to Itamar Marcus in the chat. And thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you for sharing this information. And we look forward to hosting you and seeing you again very soon.
Thank you.